Hey guys, I'm Alpha Trade and this is the Week in Review. Welcome everyone to the Week in Review. This is where I'll be recapping my trading week, the highs, the lows and everything in between. Let's crack on. So let's kick things off with Monday, straight in, losing day for me, minus 1%, taking some big drawdown from ES and just could not hold it together despite a moderate gain from CL. However, let's take a look at both assets from start to finish. So here we have my hypos for ES on the left hand side and CL on the right. So let's start with the E-mini then. My line in the sand was 33.55.5, which gave my expectations. Less than would be a breakout and with a target of 33.13, with potential to come lower to previous day's VWAP around 33.39 area. Greater than would have been a return to value pullback with the targets of CVA high. Looking at the VWAP, I noticed overnight imbalance initially, that then seemed to have turned into a shorter term balance with a clear rhythm to me at plus and minus 1.5 standard deviations. When I looked at the order flow, I noticed it was slightly positive. However, I always tend to remain quite vigilant around key areas, such as the high and low boundaries of the CVA. So my hypo A for ES was to remain balanced within the current CVA, as denoted in red, and hypo B predicted that should this fail to create balance, a sell-off would ensue. So let's look at crude oil. Line in the sand, 38.04. Given my expectations, greater than would have been a breakout with the targets of the CVA low above, and less than the line in the sand would have been a return to value pullback with the targets the other side of value, the CVA low of its current CVA. So crude's order flow was largely negative with what appeared to me as clear signs of longer term absorption. Hypo A was to continue the breakout and test this above CVA low, eventually failing to find balance here and selling off back down below to the below CVA. Hypo B, the market would find balance within the CVA that it was making its way up to. So what we've got here is essentially just the drawing of Hypo A again for E-mini alongside the actual trades that were executed. So based on the rhythm, as previously mentioned, I took a position when I noticed a slight rhythm change around the VWAP. Took some long positions. Expected target would around the plus 1.5 standard deviations. As you can see, the first trades there just slightly before the open were filled quite nicely. And for some reason, I expected it then the rhythm to continue back down to minus 1.5 standard deviations. This failed, however, and as you can see, a lot of reds there trying to get ahead of myself a little. And if I'd have just stuck with my initial hypotheses of going to the other end of value, would have ended up with some really good P&L there. However, that is the main reason for the large drawdown on ES. So same again, however this time with CL, it's basically a prediction of what I expected from Hypo A in more detail. So as you can see, the rhythm was imbalanced just starting the overnight session. And a clear rhythm to me then began to form between plus 1.5 standard deviations and around the VWAP area 0.5 standard deviations. And as you can see, if you just look at the order flow below on the VWAP chart, the market orders absolutely destroyed, gone straight through negative. However, the prices continue to go up. Clear absorption. Again, if you just look to the right hand side, that is also denoted there on the footprint chart. With some big numbers there with the market and not really going in the direction you'd expect. And finally, just those crude oil executed trades. As you can see, wait for the market to come around the vicinity of 0.5 and went long, and nicely filled around the 1.5 standard deviation area. What's sadly not shown on there is I did let the market retrace back to the 0.5 VWAP area again, went long again, with a couple of minor losses in there when I expected rhythm change. However, stuck to my guns once again. Similar sort of story with ES, however, came out with 74 ticks and a positive day in CL. Starting with E-mini for Tuesday, got on the charts a couple of hours into RTH, but immediately noticed balance within CVA with sign of further balancing. So from the off I knew exactly what I wanted to do, as the rhythm was around 1.5 standard deviations and the VWAP area. So Hypo A was to remain balanced, and Hypo B I predicted that sellers would begin to dominate. However, I was right with Hypo A and patiently waited for the markets to regress back to the CVAL before executing 2 long positions and being filled at the VWAP and 1.5 standard deviations, taking 77 ticks, and that was me done with ES. Moving on to crude oil then. Noticed overnight and into RTH that there was an imbalance with a rhythm of around +2 and +1 standard deviations. So I waited for regression to these key areas and executed a long position. A few minutes in though, however, I noticed some very short-term absorption, so I managed to get out of them at break even. I then executed some shorts, thinking that there had clearly been a rhythm change, and this time it would be the sellers dominating, even more so considering that the inventory has been massively negative for some time. I've been extremely patient with crude over the course of Tuesday. I let it do its thing whilst remaining about 90% confident in my execution based on what I was interpreting from what the market was presenting. However, it just wasn't to be, so I got out at minus 48 ticks. All in all, however, gain is still gain, so Tuesday was left on a high note with a daily gain of plus 0.44%. It all adds up, and I realised I've been trying to chase a daily gain of over 1% and above, and at this stage of my journey and career should be focusing mainly on minimising drawdown. Beginning with my analysis, ES on the left, Hypo A was looking to continue rotation within the CVA, whilst Hypo B was a higher breakout to the CVA above. Crude oil, similar story, Hypo B a balanced rotational session. With Hypo B I expected to see a breakout, retest the CVA low and head south towards the lower CVA. Moving on to P&L, again ES on the left, as you can see balance clearly failed, invalidating my Hypo A, and this actually turned into my Hypo B. However, I didn't act upon this at the failure of balance, which I should have done. Crude, however, was perfect in my opinion, a couple of sloppy executions as I was trying to make sure my context was flawless. The execution is only a click of a button, and I'm quite happy with what I actually did. So an overview of both ES and CL then. Saw a bit of heavy drawdown with ES, as you can see, minus 1.5%, with quite a small gain, 0.72, minus 69 ticks. CL, however, quite the opposite, 1.15% gain with nil drawdown, bagging 126 ticks. So as you can see with Wednesday, I ended up being overall up 0.37%. Breaking that down to each asset, crude was done beautifully in my opinion, ES not so much. Very messy and panic chasing. I had several words with myself afterwards, but I do remember Wednesday being an emotional roller coaster. I was extremely patient at the start with both assets, but a bit of volatility on ES unnerved me a little, and I need to learn to look and see if my Hypo A is being invalidated, and if so, is my Hypo B now in force? I get a little too caught up in the moment and ended up trying to chase break even for ES. However, these are all key learning points, and patience is definitely getting there. So Thursday, the 8th of October, just playing a slightly different game with crude oil here. So I don't normally zoom out so far. However, I was just curious, and I wanted to see how it had performed over a few sessions. And as you can see, because it's in such a large, powerful box of value, I've noticed where it's popped out at the extremities, the CVA low and the CVA high here, on multiple occasions, minus this where I imagine some fundamental issues were sort of at play. The majority of the time it's pinged straight back in when it's at these extremities. So I'm playing a sort of different approach. Same principles apply. I've used order flow and looked at the footprint. However, I'm going to try and stay away from just staring at it, because I found that's potentially my downfall, just staring at numbers, which unnerves me a bit. The maximum risk here, just put it above there because it's not actually breached into this above CVA, so the value's not migrated for approaching sort of 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm fairly confident in my decision to short it at the extremity here, or slightly below, sorry, within this area anyway, with this pocket of value at the top. I'm going to bring it down to the point of control for the entire CVA. Just get that up there. You can see here, it's around the sort of volume point of control, and then sort of towards the other end of value, which is the best thing to do when you think something's in rotation. So at one extreme, bang, bring it back into balance. So yeah, I'm going to let this ride out. Sadly, I'm working a bit later today, so probably won't be able to sort of manage this as best I could, but I accept the risk, and the risk is actually fairly small in comparison to the pretend capital of my sim trading. So I think it's around minus 1.09% should this go the other way. However, these are the risks you take in trading. My context is there. You know, I believe in my context, therefore I believe in this trade. And we'll see how it gets on a bit later on. So as you can see here, unfortunately, my idea failed, but that's alright. Sometimes, you know, you're not always right. However, I accepted the risk and ended up minus around 1.3%, I believe, in the end. Towards the end of the session yesterday, when I eventually got home from work, everything just seemed to be flat. Took a few ticks here and there, however, nothing really to report other than that from crude oil. Didn't do too bad on ES, however. I think I took around sort of, I think I almost broke even actually. It was really strange, it was really flat, so I was basically working from the daily dynamic sort of rhythm. As you can see there, taking multiple positions, looks quite messy, however didn't do too bad out of that at all. As you can see, sadly some quite big drawdown with ES this week. CL not too bad, could be better however. And then as we look towards the sort of month end, it's not too bad. Drawdown's a lot bigger than I would have liked, however this is the first month of the sim taking improvements into the following two, so we'll see how that goes. Towards the end of yesterday's sessions for ES and CL, decided to take the L and call it a day, ending the day minus 0.34%. Not too bad, so if you look over the course of these 2 days, the 7th and the 8th, essentially sort of up 0.03. That's not the best, it's practically break even, however, onwards and upwards. And finally for Friday, ES not really the best, took 25 ticks in total, and CL not too bad, 0.2% gain, nil drawdown, wasn't too bad, it just slowed down towards the end. I managed to get out at break even. I'm just going to call it there for the day. So week 3 then, very turbulent in my opinion. You know, some days there wasn't a lot going on in terms of market movement, and then all of a sudden volatility came out of nowhere, which has left me with minus 0.3% for the week in total. However, you know, that didn't help. The bad start on Monday, minus 1%. However, something to reflect on over the weekend. I'm going to come back better next week for the final week of month 1.